Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Des Moines County Republican Candidate Forum conducted by the Greater Burlington Partnership's Government Relations Committee. I'm Bob Bartles, a member of the committee, and I'll be the moderator this afternoon. Rachel Lindeen is our timekeeper. There will be three candidates with us this afternoon: Drake Fenton, George Rinker, and Al Waterman. With Rachel, you want to keep an eye on the screen there because she'll cue you if you're starting to run out of time, and she'll cut you off if you go over. So just fair warning, gentlemen. We want to express our gratitude to each of these public servants for their interest in serving our county. It's not an easy job. This forum will consist of rounds of questions asked by me, to which candidates will have varying times to respond. The order of response will be rotated so that each candidate has the opportunity to be the first to answer questions. Candidates have not seen the questions in advance. I do ask that candidates observe the signals from our timekeeper and stop your response when time has expired, in fairness to the other candidates. Each candidate will have the opportunity to give a 2-minute opening statement highlighting his reason for running for office. At the conclusion of the debate, each candidate will also have a 2-minute closing statement. We will begin with opening statements. Since Drake Fenton is first in alphabetical order, we will begin with him. You have 2 minutes, Mr. Fenton.
Hello, I'm Drake Fenton. I started the idea of running for sheriff about 3 to 4 years ago when I saw the crime in my neighborhood going uphill really fast. There was a shootout right in front of my house. I live on the south side of Burlington. I've lived there most of my life. So I've seen our communities kind of go down and our crime rate go up. And there was a shootout out front of my house and some bullets were flying by my son's windows, and all we could do was stay inside and pray and call the police. And of course, you know, there's a delay in time for when law enforcement shows up to them things. It's not like they're standing on the corner waiting for bad things to happen in places. So by the time the officers showed up, it was already done and over with, and they'd already got away. And I thought it'd be a really good idea to have law enforcement right in the neighborhoods where the crime is. And south side of Burlington has been a hot spot for quite a long time. It's no secret. And just the other day, we had a couple shootouts. And I was born and raised in Burlington, and I spent a lot of my youth in Greenway. My mom was a single mother and had 5 of us boys, so I grew up in Greenway. So that's where it all started with me. Was I wanted to do some more neighborhood policing, and I believe that the officers should be not necessarily living, but stationed or looking closer to the hot spot areas in our community.
Thank you. Mr. Rinker.
I want to thank you and the partnership for sponsoring this forum, because in these tenuous times that we live in, this is going to be a primary opportunity for our voters to experience the individuality of all of our candidates. So I thank you for this opportunity. I'm George Rinker. I was born and raised here in Burlington, attended Burlington Catholic and Burlington Public Schools, graduated from Burlington High School. I was in the criminal justice program at Southeastern Community College. I'm a graduate of the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy, both basic and advanced classes. I bring to the table 20 years of law enforcement experience, 10 years in police management, and 8 years of that I was the chief of police in West Burlington. So I have a broad spectrum of experience and knowledge to bring to the table to be our next county sheriff. I have been involved a lot in years past and constantly now, volunteerism, I'm president-elect of our local Kiwanis Club, and I'm co-chairman for many, many years of the Pancake Breakfast, and work diligently in the Thanksgiving community dinner. As far as the things that I think are important, I feel that the sheriff needs to be a leader, an organizer, and a great communicator. And among being a great communicator, that means an extraordinary ability and desire to listen to people. Oftentimes situations can be improved upon by just being able to talk with people and listen. The way we've done things in the past doesn't work for the future. We have serious problems that need to be addressed by serious people. So we have to be able to think and act outside the box, especially during these times where life has changed for all of us and will continue to change. We have to be effectively thinking and acting to make our communities safe. Okay,
Al, it's your turn. Do you need opening remarks for 2 minutes and go?
Okay. Hi, Al Waterman here. Currently Des Moines County Deputy. Been with them for almost 6 years, 18 years of law enforcement experience, 12 of which was spent with West Burlington Police Department. Also a member of the West Burlington City Council. Been on that council since 2016. I believe that we need to look at our youth. That's where everything starts. We need to be great leaders and great example setters for them. We also need to continue to go down the path that each law enforcement entity in this county is going. No one's perfect. We all need improvements. But what I believe with anyone, any new leader in any entity, in any leadership role, they're going to bring new things to the table. And that's what I plan to do. Bring new things to the table, new ideas, new communication ideas, communicate with the existing entities, and make this place a better community, Des Moines County a better community to live in.
It looks like, George, this question you will begin.
Okay.
Each candidate has 2 minutes. We will also continue to alternate. Our law enforcement professionals have repeatedly raised the concern that penalties for repeated unlawful carry of a firearm are mere slaps on the wrist. Would you support enhancing this penalty under section 724.4, unlawful carrying of a weapon, to a class D felony for repeat violations to aid law enforcement in removing illegal weapons from neighborhoods? Why or why not?
Well, first of all, thank you for that question. And I would absolutely support that. I have had conversations with our state senator, Tom Green, about this. I know there is either in the process when they go back into service to forward a bill that would increase the penalties. You know, we have so many crimes, even DUI, where if you're arrested progressively 1, 2, 3, 4 multiple times, the penalty gets more severe each time. And if you compare the difference between being arrested for DUI and carrying a weapon illegally, those don't compare in my mind. Carrying a weapon is a lot more severe circumstance, which will usually lead towards someone getting hurt or killed. So I absolutely am in favor of upgrading the penalty of this crime.
Thank you, George. Al, you're next. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Our local law enforcement professionals have repeatedly raised the concern that the penalties for a repeated unlawful carry of a firearm are mere slaps on the wrist. Would you support enhancing this penalty under section 724.4, unlawful carry of a weapon, to a class D felony for repeat violations to aid law enforcement in removing illegal weapons from neighborhoods? Why or why not? You have 2 minutes.
Yes, I would completely support this. Being in law enforcement actively right now, repeat offenders, when it comes to unlawful possession of firearms, it's a safety issue for everyone involved, not just law enforcement, but neighborhoods, families, children. It's something that we definitely need to address, and I would be in favor of the enhancement for the repeat offenders.
Thank you. Drake, it's your turn. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
It's a long one, I know. All right. Our local law enforcement professionals have repeatedly raised the concern that the penalties for repeat unlawful carry of a firearm are mere slaps on the wrist. Would you support enhancing this penalty under Section 724.4, unlawful carrying of a weapon, to a Class D felony for repeat violations to aid law enforcement in removing illegal weapons from their neighborhoods? Why or why not? You have 2 minutes.
I do have a question for you. Would that be a kind of a third strike thing, or would it be like the second time a person is caught with it?
It is a repeat offender. Bad guys continuing to get caught with their weapons, and it's a misdemeanor.
Okay. I'd like to say that I do support it. I think that there are people in the community that keep offending and doing the same crime over and over, and they keep getting the same charge, and they know it. So they know exactly how much time they're going to do, and they're not worried about it going and doing 30 days in jail or things like that. Career criminals don't have a problem with that. Just like a lot of times the laws stop legal people from owning or from carrying weapons and things, but it doesn't stop someone that's scared to break the law. So yes, I do support it, but I also think that some cases are case by case, and we have good judges and officers in place to kind of go through some things and make sure the charges fit the crime. But as a felon myself, I know that if I get caught with a firearm, that I'm facing a felony for it. So I don't possess a firearm. And it's the same thing on the streets. The ignorance of the law is no excuse. And people should know if they have a firearm that they aren't supposed to be carrying it around unless they have a permit to carry. So when it comes to firearms, I am a constitutionalist. I believe that our constitutional rights should be protected by the law and everyone as much as possible. But if someone keeps on doing the same thing over and over, they deserve a far worse punishment than what is handed out. I agree.
Thank you. Bob, we're ready for question 2, and it's Al's turn to start.
Mr. Waterman, what is your long-term vision for our Des Moines County Jail?
Well, at this point, the jail is definitely overpopulated and, in my opinion, understaffed. We need to take a long, hard look at that. Expansion, it's a new enough facility that we can build on, expand the jail. And in doing so, we definitely would need to bring in more help, hire more people to staff. The more inmates that are there, the more staff we need, and that's a situation that sometimes is not feasible to have more people there, whether it be people on days off, whether it be the overtime issue, but it's something that we definitely need to address, and be all for expansion and hiring more corrections officers to ensure the safety of not only the inmates, but the corrections officers as well.
Mr. Fenton, what is your long-term vision for our Des Moines County Jail?
This is one of the main running points that I go on with my campaign, is I believe that jail could be handled a lot better than what it is. And that's not to throw shade or shoot down anybody that's been taking care of it before me. But I believe that the pay for stay is completely ridiculous. I think a lot of people that are in that place are already in a bad spot in their life. And when they get out, they have fines and child support and things like that, and getting their licenses back, getting their life back together. The last thing they need is money following them around, a bill following them around where they can't register a vehicle to get to work or to function in their life better. But I also believe there should be some types of counseling and addictive services out there. I don't think we're reaching out to the people in our community, the homeless and the addicted and and the people that are having real issues that are just in and out of that revolving door and not really getting any real help. And I understand hands are tied with a lot of finances and things and with staff, but that's one way that the sheriff's department can really touch our community and really start building it up a little better, is to be a more moderate to people that we know are only doing a little bit of time, and they're going to be getting back out here on the streets, and they need something better where they can learn some cognitive thinking skills and be on their own medication when they go in and leave. Where I've seen guys go in there where their medication is changed on them when they walk through the door, and I think people should be allowed to, when they go in, that to be able to contact their own doctors, whether it be through videos like this or apps like this, Zoom and stuff, where they can talk to their own psychiatrists and doctors and still work on their issues while they are in jail, and they have time to sit down and actually focus on themselves and get some things right. Now, that's not saying that they don't deserve the time, but I think we can put better use to the time than what we have.
Mr. Rinker, what is your long-term vision for our Des Moines County Jail?
Well, Bob, it's a great question. We currently have the capability of housing 80 prisoners in the Des Moines County Jail. 12 of those positions are for 24-hour or less inmates. The other 68 are for longer-term inmates. And in the recent past, up until the COVID experience, we were experiencing approximately 20 to 30% of those 68 positions being utilized by mental health inmates. And I don't believe personally that mental health people in need of assistance are in the right place if they're in the county jail. What they don't know about committing crime, they can easily learn from other inmates there by the time they're released. We need to work with the state to restore our mental health facilities, to put the people who have mental health issues in those facilities and create beds necessary for criminal offenders. So before we start spending money to increase the size of the jail or rebuild the jail, we need to reevaluate the situation within our own house. I also know that you, Bob, through your agency at Hope Haven, are in the process of creating an alternative to handle some of those people. As you and I have talked, you have the upwards of 15 beds available at Hope Haven to handle substance abusers and persons with mental health issues. We spend a lot of money every day housing prisoners outside of Des Moines County. At one point in the last 12 months, we were up to 22 people per day at $50 per person, and that's a lot of money. The county did a increase in the budget for that of $150,000, taking that to over $400,000. Now, with COVID intervening since then, we will perhaps be able to stay under that. But the point being, we need to work to effectively improve the way we deal with inmates now. Thank you.
Mr. Fenton, you'll be first for the next question. An overcrowded jail can be an issue. At a minimum cost of $50 a day per inmate to house inmates at other facilities, what do you plan to do to overcome this cost?
Well, I do believe that putting the people in the right places, there wasn't too long ago that Mr. Johnstone let out a statement into the newspaper about a fire in West Burlington where a man died. He perished in it, and he had some serious mental health issues. And how I distinctly remember Mr. Johnstone talking about not having a place to put the people with mental illness. So I believe that there should be something. Why not utilize that money that is being spent to pay other say jails to house our inmates when we could work with the state government and get some type of mental health facility built here, where instead of forcing all that money out to other places to house inmates, we could utilize that money to get the ill in the right place. And I'm not above building on to the current jail, but I think one of my running points is to bring the population down in our jail, not to raise it. And I understand there is an overflow and an influx of criminals here recently, but as soon as we start differentiating mental health issues with career criminal issues, I think we'd be better off, and our money would actually be going to help people rather than just house people.
Mr. Rinker, you would be next. Do you want the question repeated?
No, I'm good with that, and I frankly spoke to that in the last question, and I will just reiterate that we need to work with state agencies to put regional, if not local, but I would suspect regional would be more able to occur, facilities for mental health and substance abuse people, to get those people out of the county jail so that we can effectively utilize the available beds currently for applicable offenders. Somewhere down the road, and I would estimate that that's somewhere possibly 5 to 10 years given recent numbers, and when I say that, I mean prior to COVID, because obviously that has changed life for all of us, and we don't know what impact that's going to have on the future. But in my opinion, spending millions of dollars to expand the jail or replace the jail is not necessary at this point. We need to get the right offenders in the right beds, the right mental health people, the right substance abusers into the correct beds and out of the county jail. And I think once we do that, we're going to see a significant difference. We won't have to send as many people outsourced to other jails. We can curtail the high expense that we have per day, and I will reiterate that. In the recent past months before COVID, we had 22 average people that we were spending $50 a day to incarcerate. Now, that doesn't include the transportation to and from those facilities, transportation bringing those people back for court appearances and so forth. So there's quite a bit of other expense over and above that $50 a day. We need to work on taking care of our beds in our jail and make sure we have the right people in it.
Mr. Waterman, you would be next.
Okay, could you repeat the question, please?
An overcrowded jail can be an issue. At minimum cost of $50 per day per inmate to house inmates at other facilities, what do you plan to do to overcome this cost?
Well, I'm going to reiterate what the other two candidates have stated. We need to reevaluate the situation, the inmates that are currently being housed there. See if there are other facilities that we can move them to. But in past, that's just not feasible. But we have to continue to try and go down that route. Does that jail have the capacity, the land to add on? Yes. The cost of housing these other inmates in other facilities is going to continue to grow. And that's something we need to get a handle on, grasp that, and we need to evaluate each situation and figure out what would be best for our county as far as which way we need to go in expanding the jail or finding other alternatives.
Mr. Rinker, you'll be the first for the next question.
Okay.
Are you familiar with and do you support crisis intervention training, or CIT training as an acronym, for your deputies in partnership with the Southeast Iowa Link Mental Health and Disability Services? If so, well, I guess why or why not?
I absolutely am, Bob, and that's a great question because I think training is a necessary improvement. The state requires that a deputy have initially 4 hours of training of mental health education and then subsequently annually an hour of training. But in my estimation, we need more than that. Now, I think it's important for each deputy to be as thoroughly trained as possible. I want these deputies to be first responders, not first watchers. And that requires them to be thoroughly trained in not only mental health, but a variety of topics. And mental health is on the top burner right now in our society. And so I do affirm that we need to take every opportunity that we can to do a better job to deal with the mentally health and the mentally healthy and unhealthy and the substance abusers, because those people oftentimes get put into situations, sometimes by their own doing, sometimes not, but they get into situations where they do become criminal offenders, and we don't need any more criminal offenders. We don't need any more victims. So I think we need to be more proactive as we possibly can. And that program is one of the great programs that will help us get there.
Mr. Waterman, do you need that question repeated?
Yes, please.
Are you familiar with and do you support crisis intervention training or CIT training for your deputies in partnership with the Southeast Iowa Link Mental Health and Disability Services? And then why or why not?
Hello?
Hello. Did you hear the question, sir?
I didn't hear the end of it. I had a call coming in. I had to cancel.
Okay, I'll repeat it. Are you familiar with and do you support crisis intervention training or CIT training for your deputies in partnership with the Southeast Iowa Link Mental Health and Disability Services? And then why or why not?
Yes, very familiar with it. I am trained. I completely support it. It's something that I believe all deputies, all officers need to be trained in. It's a great asset. It's one of those things that since I've been trained, it's something that I use quite often. Not necessarily just in those situations, but in sometimes other situations, other calls that I've been on. It's great training. It's an asset that I feel that all the deputies that are currently employed there, they do a great job at. Do we need to continue the training? Absolutely. More training? Sure. If that's feasible and we can do more training than, just once a year or once every 6 months, whatever it may take, the more training for any individual, the better off and better asset they're going to be for our department.
Mr. Fenton, do you need the question restated?
Yeah, no, sir, I got this. This is one of the better skills that I bring to the table. I've been dealing with my whole life, I've dealt with a lot of people in addiction and mental health issues, whether it be family, friends, or where I grew up and how I grew up. Growing up in a low rent housing community with a single mother, and it's no secret that a lot of the people that are in them housing developments or housing areas and things there's a lot of mental issues and whether it be alcohol or drug addictions that come along with those things. So nothing replaces real life experience, but it is I think that the officers coming in and then an annual revisit is a great idea, but life experience, that still won't trump life experience. Controlled environments are it's hard to recreate a high anxiety, high risk situation for somebody in a building or it's things of that nature. So yes, I do believe that there should be some type of training, but a lot of these things have to be learned on the job, and it's just like with anything else. I understand that the agencies have to have a set schedule they go by and a set certification standard that they do. But it still comes down to life experience and dealing with real-time situations. So it's nice for officers and first responders and people that are in that line of work to have some type of knowledge, to have some type of guidepost to go back to of how they should handle a situation, or look for different characteristics of somebody that's having a meltdown, or showing the different tales of being on drugs or alcohol, and to get back somewhere to handle situations. Thank you.
Mr. Waterman, you'll be first for this next question.
Okay.
Are you in support of persons with dual diagnoses, meaning they have both substance abuse and mental illness issues, being served in a mental health program as an alternative to incarceration? And then why or why not?
Can you repeat that one more time? I'm sorry, you were cutting it out.
Okay. Are you in support of persons with dual diagnoses, which means people who have both substance abuse and mental illness issues, being served in a mental health program as an alternative to incarceration? And then why or why not?
I believe if that individual can be evaluated and he is not a safety issue to other patients inside the mental health facility, I'm completely in agreement with that. I would be fine with that. We just need to make sure that he's not, as I said, a safety issue to the other patients in there. And if he is, then we need to find a different alternative, because we do not need any other issues as far as other people getting hurt.
Mr. Fenton, do you need the question repeated?
Yes, please.
Are you in support of persons with dual diagnoses? That means people with substance abuse and mental illness, being served in a mental health program as an alternative to incarceration? And then why or why not?
Yes, I am in favor of it. I do believe that each person should be assessed on a person-by-person basis. If someone has predatory tendencies or is a violent offender, I don't believe that they should be put in with people with just with mental issues or addiction problems, because then you run into other issues. So I believe in a real serious vetting program for it, but I think that it's something that our community's been missing for a very long time. Separating the career criminals, violent offenders, and things like that from people that are just having a meltdown mentally one time, or things of that nature, where they get the actual help and find some different skills and tools to put in their pocket to take back out into real life. They can think back and look back on it and learn how to handle situations better in their life. A lot of our issues we have in our community is the way people were raised or taught at an early age, situations and things. Getting people in there and getting them into some real serious programs that have been proven to work really help. And I'd like to touch what Trump, our president, has gone to on this, and he talks about reforming our criminal justice system. And this is one of the things that he talks about, is putting people where they need to be. You know, repeat offenders, they probably need to be in jail with a more structured environment, whereas people with mental health issues or addiction problems need help rather than incarceration.
Mr. Rinker, do you need the question repeated?
No, sir, I'm good with your question. And I think I have previously stated here today that I think incarcerating somebody with a substance abuse problem or a mental health problem, the last place they need to be is incarcerated in the county jail. the first place they need to be is in a treatment center, a treatment facility, whether that's local or state or regional. They need to be someplace where they can proactively and progressively get better. And I think everybody can get better because that starts in your own mind. If you have the tools put forth in front of you, they're only as good as your will and ability to take advantage of them. And I don't think those tools are found in the county jail. And as I mentioned before, sometimes you have people that are put in these county jails because we currently really have nowhere else to put them. And they go in there with a degree of knowledge that when they come back out, they have more knowledge about how to become offenders than they do on how to be valuable citizens. So I don't think putting them in jail is the right place. We need to improve upon creating the correct type of facilities for treatment and care to help them get better.
Mr. Fenton, you'll be first for the next question. The current situation with COVID-19 will have an impact on county revenues. What can you do as sheriff to navigate the potential decrease in available funds for the budget?
Well, I've seen different fundraisers and things for, you know, getting a canine unit that the Des Moines County Sheriff's Department's used recently, and I believe in those things, but just reaching out to other funds that are available that, like, I've read recently that Mr. Trump signed a stimulus bill into office, and I'm sure that there are different grants and monies that are available for that come on down to state and county agencies to reach out to and look into to keep the money flowing in order to keep our small economy the way it needs to be. And I realize that we haven't hit it as hard as some of the other counties around us, but it does slow down travel and things of that nature. But as far as being the sheriff, I think my thinking on this is we need to be looking more to some of the backlash of what criminals will try to do to take advantage of our economy right now being low and people being stuck at home, especially people with mental health issues and addiction issues. We need to start worrying about the funds for helping people out that are becoming victims of crimes. And you know, one of the things that that people that have no problem being predators in our community and things like that do is situations like this they can use to their advantage. So we need to be looking more into getting ready for an influx in crime in our communities.
Mr. Rinker, do you need that question repeated?
No, sir, I'm good. As I mentioned earlier, we're in a time in our society that we have not experienced before. And we don't know what's going to happen in the future. But I think we're pretty secure in knowing that monies that have been there for government operations from the county level to city level, at least for the time being, those amounts of money are going to be decreased. And so as sheriff, which will be in charge of pretty much the largest budget within the county structure between the jail and the office operation of the sheriff's office, we need to look at cinching our belt, so to speak. We have an obligation to maintain law enforcement services to the people of Des Moines County, and they have an expectation of us to promote safety for everybody in this county. But there are ways I think we can look at decreasing some of the money that is spent on that without decreasing services. And that's where we have to look at, whether that be buying less fuel, buying fuel for the cars at a less dollar per gallon. Every little bit that we can help the budget will enable us to keep providing the quality of service that the people of Des Moines County expect and deserve.
Mr. Waterman, you would be next. Do you need the question repeated?
Yes, please.
The current situation with COVID-19 will have an impact on county revenues. What can you do as sheriff to navigate the potential decrease in available funds for the budget?
Look at all aspects of the budget, different avenues, see where we could tighten things up. But most importantly, we cannot decrease the services to the county, cities that are in our county, to the citizens of the county. We need to continue to provide them with the services that they are used to. Therefore, we just need to look at all aspects of the budget and see where we can move monies around and make sure that we still have the money to service the county, but do it in a way that we're not overspending.
This is the last question I'm going to present now, and Mr. Rinker, you're first. So, and then we'll have closing statements. But if elected, this will be your first time as sheriff. What evidence would you offer that you're prepared to represent the people of this county?
Well, Bob, as I mentioned to you in my opening, I come with 20 years of law enforcement experience, 10 years of that as a supervisory position, 8 years as chief of police in West Burlington. As I mentioned, I believe that the sheriff needs to be a leader, an organizer, and a great communicator. And being a great communicator, whether you're talking to deputies, jail staff, citizens who have become victims, anybody in our community, the sheriff has to be a great communicator. He has to be available to talk to people. He has to be available, more importantly, to listen to people. Sometimes people have problems that we in law enforcement can't fix, but you can at least help the person by willing to listen to them. And if you can offer a positive aspect of making the situation better than it is, we need to be able to do that. So I believe those things that are important as a sheriff: to be available, to be a great listener, to be a great communicator, to be a leader, to direct the department in a positive direction, to be an organizer so that we have the right people doing the right job with the right equipment, so that they can truly be first responders and not first watchers. When they arrive at the scene of a crime or answering a call, they need to be physically and trained accordingly to do the best that they can do.
Mr. Waterman, you would be next. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
If elected, this will be your first time as sheriff. What evidence would you offer that you're prepared to represent the people of this county?
Well, as I stated before, I've got 18 years of law enforcement experience. I have a criminal justice degree. Also have been graduated from ILEA Law Enforcement Academy. Along with the experience that I have in law enforcement, I also bring to the table the aspect of city management, being on the city council with West Burlington, being able to bring that to the table as far as budgeting. First and foremost, law enforcement officials, whether we like to admit it or not, or whether you think it's right or not, we live in glass houses. We have to lead by example in every aspect of our life, not only in our personal life or professional life, but in our personal life as well. That's something that we need to continue to do, and that's something that is very important to me. Also, I we'll have an open door policy. Communication is the key, not only in the police department, the sheriff's departments, but when we speak with the public, we have to be able to communicate. They have to feel that we are listening to them. They have to feel that that we are someone that they can talk to. As I said, not only the citizens, but the deputies as well. That open door policy to me is very important, and that is something that I will always have. And one other aspect that I'm a strong believer in, I am not going to ask any of my deputies, employees, to do anything that I would not be willing to do myself. So with that said, I'm going to jump in if needed, where needed, and help my deputies out.
Time.
Mr. Fenton, you would be next. Do you need the question repeated?
Yes, please.
If elected, this will be your first time as sheriff. What evidence would you offer that you're prepared to represent the people of this county?
Like I've said earlier, I think I have a lot of life experience with law enforcement through my life. I don't have the degrees. I don't have the experience of actually being an officer, but growing up the way I did and where I did, I have had a lot of experience with criminals and people that are breaking the law and things that are going on in communities that shouldn't be going on. And I've always done my part to protect and serve my neighborhood, no matter where I lived around town. So I bring that experience to the table, but I am also a college graduate. I do have 3 degrees. I have a degree in biomedical electronics technology and computer-aided design. I've ran a business, a roofing and remodeling company, since I was 17 years old. I know a lot about budgeting and getting the job done and getting men to follow me. I run 2 large crews right now as we speak. I'm on the job site, making sure everything gets done, the materials get here, and everybody's working together. And I get right up there and work with my guys and show them what needs to be done. I lead the pack. I'll be doing that with law enforcement also. I'll do what I need to do. And I also believe that I should be present in the community where the crime levels are higher. I think that's one of the things that our current sheriff's department's missing is our officers going out and doing some community policing on their own. Get into the higher risk areas and talk to the youth and be around when something might happen. I believe in neighborhood watches. We should get involved with people, and it takes people in their own neighborhoods and their own communities to see things going wrong and see stuff that's out of character, and to really put the calls in or get the word to the people that it needs to, so things can be done in our communities, keep everybody safe.
We're ready for closing statements. And Mr. Waterman, you would go first on that.
Okay. As I said, I'm a longtime resident of Des Moines County. Raised children here. Member of the West Burlington City Council. As Sheriff of Des Moines County, I will continue to make sure that our citizens are safe, not only in the rural Des Moines County, but also in our small cities, to include Middletown, Danville, and Minneapolis. Everyone in those 3 cities, will have a voice. They should have a voice. And if they want to express their voice, if they want to be heard, I'm going to sit and listen, regardless of what it is, regardless of what time. I will be available 24/7. And that's, in my opinion, that's what a sheriff should be. Our current sheriff, he is a lot like that. He is available just about whenever he is needed. Whenever someone needs to call him, he will. If he doesn't answer, he'll call right back. So that is the same way I'm going to be as well. I'm just ready to serve the citizens of Des Moines County as sheriff.
Mr. Fenton, you would be next with a closing statement.
Okay. I agree that the sheriff is here to protect and serve all the communities in the county. But let's be honest, the crime isn't going on in Mediapolis or Danville. I believe what I really bring to the table and what's really needed in our community is I live in the high risk areas. I will be present. I will, if I hear something going on or I catch wind of things, I will be the one to reach out to people and see if I can help the situations. I won't wait around for a crime to happen and somebody to come looking for help as a victim or things have happened bad for them, then they afterwards come and look for help. I will be proactive in my community. I will make sure that I'm always around the higher crime areas. And like I've said before, my door, everybody will know where I live. They come knock on my door. They need to talk. They need to figure some things out. I've been through a lot of issues in my life. It's no secret. I do have a past that I've had some issues in. So I know what it's like to live in lower rent areas and to feel like there's no way out or nowhere to go. I've been down where people have. I've been to jail. I know what it's like from the inside out. So I'll always be available, and I will always make sure that I be the first one to reach out and give people an outlet to come to law enforcement with their issues rather than being scared of repercussions. I'll be available at all times.
Mr. Rinker, you would be the final closing statement.
Okay, I'm bringing up the rear, so to speak, right?
Ha ha. There's more than one way to frame that, but I'm not gonna. I'll let you frame it the way you choose to.
Okay. Bob, there are no secrets to safety. Safety in our communities can only be established and maintained as a result of preparation, vigilance, cooperation, and learning from our failures in the past. It's our responsibility to provide our children an environment where they can become safe, responsible, and respectful adults. As I mentioned to you, I've had the great experience of running a police department, and for 10 years, I asked people to do something for me every day, and I never once had to give an order. And I believe that has to do with my style of management. I believe in getting the job done and doing whatever it takes to accomplish the mission as effectively as possible. If you treat people with consistent respect, dignity, and fairness, you can accomplish virtually anything. I know that from personal experience. I know how to talk and listen to people. I know how to positively motivate people to do a better job. And that's what we have to do. We can do better. And I'm asking for your vote so that I can be the next Des Moines County Sheriff and make progress for all of us, make us all safer, and lead us in a progressive direction. Thank you.
Gentlemen, again, I want to express appreciation for your willingness to serve our county. I'd also like to thank those in the audience who, for their interest in this election process and your stand on the issues. That concludes our forum.